welcome to episode 13 of the Clayton Tyner podcast. I am your host, Clayton Tyner. You can follow me at Clayton Tyner on Instagram or Twitter. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm so glad that you're jumping in with us. If you follow the show, make sure you're liking, subscribing, and if you're on YouTube, hit that notification bell. Episode 13, we're going to keep things really simple. And a lot of times, the way life seems to work is you find the most power in the simplest processes. Today, we're going to talk about something called the health index, or what we're calling on our team at MetaChurch now, the 5 Ps. I was at lunch about a month ago with a guy who is mentoring me here in San Antonio. His name is Brad Hobbs, and he's a pastor over at Community Bible Church, a very large, very impactful church in our city. And as we were talking through things going on in our own lives and in our staff's, he recommended to me this process, what he calls the health index, what I'm calling the 5 Ps. And you'll see very quickly why it is called the 5 Ps. There are literally going to be, you could probably guess this, 5 words that start with the letter P. For each of the 5 different Ps, we're going to consider our own personal health in that area and then assign your life in that category a score of 1 to 100. Now, a couple of things. I cannot stand doing exercises like this where you have to assign a score. Like when somebody says, "Hey, give this a 1 to 10," or how did the event go? Let's give it like an A to F. I'm an overthinker. I'm an overanalyzer. I get lost in my own thoughts. Those things feel really subjective. However, if I'm going to do it, I would actually rather do it on a scale of 1 to 100 than 1 to 10 because there's far more gradation. Most of the time, something isn't a 7 or an 8 to me. It's like a 7.2. Well, on a 100-point scale, we can do that. Now, as with most things that we talk about on the Clayton Tyner podcast, this exercise only works when you are brutally honest with yourself, when you are willing to really dig past the surface or whatever the masks we wear and actually get to the root of how you would score the health of your life across these different categories, these 5 Ps that we're going to be looking at throughout this. On the Clayton Tyner podcast, we seek to explore what matters. Your life matters. We're starting with that presupposition. And so if your life matters, we should explore topics and ideas, truths that matter. Since your life matters, we should try to get your life as maximally healthy as it can possibly be. And so this is an exercise that, while you can do it literally in 5 minutes, it can be a consistent check-in for you to see how you are doing. Now, this can be used in a work environment. This can be used in your personal life. It can be used personally or professionally, or you can use it overall as just a sign of your health across the board, both personally and professionally. And the truth is, as much as we try to compartmentalize these different aspects of our life, I'm a dad here and a husband here and a employee here and a supervisor here and a pastor here and a friend here. We know that our actual health, how healthy we are as we operate in the world, isn't actually compartmentalized. And so we did this exercise for the first time as a staff yesterday. And the reason that I'm sharing it today is because it was even more significant of an exercise than I thought it was going to be. And I think it can be significant for you as well. Now, the way that I wrote the prompts for the 5 Ps is definitely focused professionally because, again, I was doing this with my staff in the organization that I lead. However, you can very easily massage these to fit into your personal life as well. And so we get ready to be brutally honest with ourselves. We get ready to rank 5 different categories of our life on a scale of 1 to 100. And what we're going to do now is walk through exactly what those 5 categories, the 5 Ps of our health index are. The first one is our purpose. How would you measure your own individual purpose and how you are doing living that purpose out on a scale of 1 to 100? Here are some questions to consider. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take like each category, and these questions are meant to help us look at all the different sides and all the different angles of them to make sure that we're giving ourselves the most accurate score that we can. Here's some questions about your purpose. Are you doing what you were created to do? Now, that is a very loaded question because it implies inherently that you are actually pursuing your own unique individual purpose in the world, which also implies that you have a unique purpose in the world. For our listeners who are coming at this maybe from a materialistic standpoint or an atheistic standpoint, you don't really have much of a foundation to make a bold claim like that. If we're all kind of just stardust and a collection of atoms and molecules, if everything in life is predetermined, we've talked a little bit about free will versus determinism on the podcast, then really you don't have a unique purpose. You're kind of just going to be swept along by the current of culture. If you're successful, it will be a happy accident. If you're not successful, that's just the way that the cards fell. However, we start with the assumption that we were created on purpose. We were created with purpose, which means who you are at your core, your makeup, your personality, your talents and skill sets, your gifting, your outlook, your upbringing, all of it is to be used for the redemptive purpose of you making a unique impact on the world. And that is your purpose. And so, do you spend any time exploring that? Because to explore that, you have to binge a few less shows and you have to scroll a few less feeds. You got to actually do some work on yourself. To do that, you have to take chances. Our very first official podcast was Ready, Set, Start. Maybe you don't know what you were created to do because you've never left the safety of your walled fortress. You're afraid of the dragons that exist in the unknown. You're afraid of the amalgamation of all of your greatest fears that keeps you stuck in the status quo. And so you were meant to do something great. Are you actually pursuing that? And here's some ways that you can decipher or discern that. If you created your own dream job description, what percentage of that job description would look like your actual current job description? Like if you got a blank check on what you wanted to do to make income for the rest of your life, what percentage of what you're currently doing would end up on there? If it's like 0%, then there's a good chance you're not really living in your purpose. If it's 60%, there's a good chance that you have real capacity to be in your purpose right now, but you've got to get intentional about mitigating the things that are draining you and moving you away from your unique contribution, and emphasizing and pouring fuel on the fire of the aspects of your job or career that are leading you towards your purpose. If you created your own job description, what percentage of it would look different from your current roles? And here's my favorite, our last question about purpose. This is helping you decide your score on 1 to 100. Here's the question. If you hit the Mega Millions jackpot tomorrow, if you won $100 million tomorrow, how much of your job would you still come back and do? It reminds me of a great scene, and I'm so frustrated at myself. I didn't pull it up. There's a scene from The Office where the warehouse guys all hit the lottery. And I'm pretty sure it's actually the opening of the show is all the warehouse guys coming up the stairs to the guys in the office and just throwing it in their face and then like quitting very disrespectfully on the spot. Working in the warehouse was not their purpose. The reason that you know that is because if you are operating in your purpose and you win $10 million tomorrow, not only are you going to go back, I mean, you might go on a vacation, you know what I'm saying? You might hit the Maldives, you might go to Key West for a second, but then you're going to come back and you're going to stay in your role where you're making an impact. And further, if you are living in your purpose and you win $10 million tomorrow, and because you won $10 million, you leave your purpose to live a life of leisure and comfort, the countdown has begun to you being absolutely miserable, because a purposeless life is a miserable life. And so if you had all the money, you just had a windfall of money come into your life tonight, what parts of your job would you keep doing? If it's like none of them, you're probably not living much in your purpose. You're going to have a really low score. If there's 70%, it's like, I would come back and do 3/4 of what I'm doing right now. But if I didn't have to do this 25%, if I had $10 million in the bank, these are the things I wouldn't do. Well, you might score somewhere around a 75. The first P of the health index is our purpose. And this is a big one. There is the deepest longing of our souls is to be in a pattern of life where we are fulfilling our purpose, to feel like we have meaning. I'm going to make a book recommendation, and I'll put this in the the notes as well today, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I'm going to preach a little bit about this on Sunday. And Viktor Frankl was picked up in 1942 by the Gestapo and taken not to a concentration camp, but to a death camp. He spent 4 years going back and forth to different death and concentration camps under the Nazi regime in Germany. And his stories are, of course, as heartbreaking as one can imagine. During his time there, he learned one critical truth that would guide him the rest of his life. As a matter of fact, he would come out and establish a practice called logotherapy. And what he found is that the deepest need of humans is meaning, that it is as deep and as substantial as our need for food and water. We have to have purpose in life. And what he found is the people who knew their life still had meaning and still had purpose were able to hold on for much longer. And many of them were actually able to survive the most unimaginable suffering in the midst of the concentration camps. Purpose is big, and you need to know where you're at, somewhere between 1 to 100. Our second P in our health index is people. Now, remember, I wrote this for an organizational framework. However, you can easily adjust this to your personal life as well. The people who you surround yourself with are either filling you up or depleting you. There's a good chance that there is a mix of both, that you're around some people, and when you spend time with them, or when you're in meetings with them, or when you go to lunch with them, it really fills you up. And there are some people who every time you're around them, they seem to just drain the energy and emotion right out of you. So here are some questions to help you have a fully orbed thought and view of what your score should be when it comes to people. Do you trust the people that you work with? You guys know I'm a huge fan of Patrick Lencioni, and Patrick Lencioni has a 5-tiered triangle for how you get maximal results in an organization. And the foundational principle of all of it is trust. If you don't have trust in your relationships, you don't have relationships. You have acquaintances with people who you'd be better off not being an acquaintance with, because they are going to be drawing the energy out of you. Do you trust the people you work with? If you don't trust anybody in your work, if you don't trust anybody in your life, your score should be very, very low. In the work environment, are you confident that your peers are going to get their work done? It's very, very difficult to be on a team and watch people get assigned things, and the first thing that you think is, yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. They didn't get the last 5 things done, or they got 3 of the last 5 things done, or, they're hit or miss, or it depends on if they want to do it, or I'm not really sure if they want to be here. Do you have confidence that people around you are going to hold up their end of the bargain in your friend group, in your personal life? Do you trust that when your friend tells you something, they're going to do it? Do you trust that if you tell them something in confidence, that it will be held in confidence? Do you love coming into the office? Do you look forward to going to work? Do you trust your leaders? Again, there's that key piece of trust. Now, this just isn't about people generally, but about the people who are supervising you, who are setting your salary, who have the power and the authority to fire you. Is there peace on your team? Is there peace in the organization? Now, we've talked about this. This is a pro-conflict podcast. We love healthy conflict, and healthy conflict and peace are not mutually mutual of each other. As a matter of fact, it is healthy conflict that leads you to peace. And so, do the people around you do what is necessary to have a peaceful and powerful environment? We rank ourselves as a score 1 to 100 on our purpose, 1 to 100 on people. The third category is provision. Here's some questions for provision. Do you have the resources that you need? And this is very simple. In the professional arena, do you actually have what you need to get your job done? If you work with computers, are you provided a computer? If your job is contingent on you having a key to the right closet, do you have that key? Do you actually have what you need to get your work done? Do you feel like your needs are heard and are fought for? When you have an issue, do you have someone who's in your corner? That is a resource, people resources. Do you have the social circle around you to motivate you and give you the ability to accomplish? There are a lot of things that we do at work that we just can't do by ourselves. A lot of things are a multifaceted process that run through many different people. Do you have the right people in the right places? Is there a key resource that you're missing? Is there an item that you've been asking for years and they've never made room in the budget for it? Is there something that would take your department, your division, maybe even the whole organization to the next level if they would just be willing to make an investment in the work that you're doing? On a scale of 1 to 100, do you have the provisions that you need? If you're doing this on a personal level, do you have the resources that you need as an individual? Are you making the salary that you need to be making to accomplish your goals in life? Do you have the right house, the right car? And man, if you think you need the biggest house and the best car, listen to episode 12, The Wealthy Way, because what we need to do is to live below our means and to spend less than we make consistently over time, and we will end up wealthy. Where are you at from a 1 to 100 on provision? Now, remember, I did this in an organizational context, and so the next one may be a little bit surprising to you, but our fourth P is our personal health. Now, this one's a little bit tricky, and it's even tricky as an employer to talk about with my employees, because there are some HR issues and certainly some legal issues around making any kind of demands around people's personal health, their personal diet, their exercise habits. Those are waters that we don't want to wade into. What we do want to do is ask people to self-evaluate based on their own observations of their personal health, how they are doing. And see, what we do is we think that we are like experts at compartmentalization. And so our personal health can just be absolutely in the dumps. We can be eating a horrendous diet, still eating like, full grown middle schoolers. We can never exercise in our life. We can drink, 10 sodas a day, never touch a bottle of water. And it's not going to affect our purpose. It's not going to affect our relationship with people. It's not going to affect our well-being or outlook. The truth is, our personal health is deeply connected to everything else that we do. Our body is the structure that we are operating in the world. And how we take care of our body is going to be how we take care of our emotions, how we take care of our anxiety, how much energy we're able to put towards our purpose, how ready we are to invest in people, what use we can make of the provisions that we are given. And so personal health is an easy one. And yet at the same time, as simple as it is, and we know what to do and we know what not to do. And generally we know what to eat and we know what not to eat. And we know we should be moving and we know that there should be some element of exercise in our life. But especially in the West, people just are not doing it. And so are you taking care of your health? You're going to have to give yourself a score here, 1 to 100. And it matters. How is your diet? Are you active? Do you get enough vitamins and nutrients? As we get older, our body quits producing all of the necessary vitamins that we need. Or maybe you work largely indoors. You don't have lots of access to the sun, especially if you're also not exercising or you're also not active and you're outdoors. You got to get vitamin D. You got to get those things. Your joints, man, they just start collapsing, and pain sets in. Are you taking fish oil? Like, where is your personal health? And what's interesting is the question isn't how healthy do you look or how healthy do you feel? We shared kind of our highs and lows as a staff on the scores that we got. One of my lower scores was my health. Now, I do CrossFit. I do it rigorously and I do it regularly. However, and not a doctor, so this is maybe my opinion, but if someone was either going to exercise and keep eating a bad diet, or they weren't going to exercise, but they were going to start eating clean, and I got to choose which one of those routes they took, I would pick diet every single time. And the truth is, although my diet has improved over the years, man, I've got a sweet tooth. And I don't like water, which doesn't even make sense. But it's just like torture for me to drink water. I know I've got to do these things. It was one of my lowest scores. And you can exercise for hours every single day, but if you're not backing it up with a diet, that strategy is going to be short-lived, and you end up with people who look like they're in great shape, who end up dying from diseases and malnutrition issues, or living in significant internal pain, or having blood disorders, or giving themselves diabetes. And so this was one that really challenged me, because when one of your scores is low, all of your scores are affected. We have looked at purpose, people, provision, our personal health. And the last one may surprise you as well, and that is your place. often we give little credence to the actual environments that we put ourselves in. If you've ever been to Disneyland or Disney World, maybe you didn't even recognize this on a conscious level, but the way they take care of their place, of the actual environment that you're in, is one of the keys to the experience that you get there. It's like you want to go on a roller coaster, you can go to any theme park. They go up, they go down, they go in circles. You want to see a cool ride, you want to do a 3D thing. There are other places that have that. But what makes Disney World the most magical place on earth is in large part the place itself. You'll never see litter there. They don't allow it. And their team members are trained to see the smallest piece of litter and to go in to take care of it almost immediately. There is the right kind of music that is tailor suited to whatever the part of the park that you're in. The things that you're smelling, they're intentional about what you're experiencing with all 5 of your senses. And it almost makes it magic. And so how would you rate your place? Do you like where you work? Does your physical work environment meet your needs? Perhaps you are a hardcore introvert and it's very difficult for you to get work done around other people. And you're in one of these, modern situations where they put everyone in one big office, open workspace, open work environment. And it's just draining, man. It's like you cannot get work done. You sit at work for 8 hours and try your best and have to go home and work for 4 more hours when you're finally in some solitude. Does your physical work environment meet your needs? Does it actually have what you need? Does it create the right sense for you to really thrive? Does it meet your expectations? Do you feel held back by the container that you're in? We wrestle with this because at MetaChurch, we don't have offices. And it's hard because in order to get our work accomplished, we have a meeting space inside the saloon that we meet in for Sundays. We have our broadcast location inside of an active saloon, a bar and dance hall. And we have a little piece of it. And it works fine for everyone gathering together for a meeting. But once we're there, there's nowhere to go and get individual work done. There's nowhere to go and shut a door and have a meeting. There's nowhere to go to shut a door and write a sermon. And so in order to get quiet time work done, we all disperse. We go to our homes and coffee shops and stuff, and we lose a sense of proximity. This was another one that was very low on, I think, every single one of our health index. All of us scored our place pretty low, our lack of offices. We do a lot digitally, a lot with video, and we don't have a video suite. We don't have editing bays. We honestly don't have the best way to lock all of our stuff up, or we have so much equipment at this point that there's barely room to navigate around, and it does affect us. And so we know that all of our health indexes are going to be pulled down until we solve this place problem. And so I want to show you the actual handout that I gave our team yesterday. It's in a meeting that we call Grow. Every Monday morning, we do a leadership meeting. We talked about the 5 Ps. And so you can see here for each of the 5 Ps, consider your own personal health in that area and assign your life a score of 1 to 100. And so my hope is that you will actually do this and participate in this with us, that you will take and give yourself a score in purpose, people, provision, personal health, and place. But here's where the magic happens. At the end, add all 5 scores together. So you take your 5 scores out of your 5 Ps, you add all of them together, and then you divide that big number by 5, and that's going to give you your overall score. That last score is your health index. And so once you see your total health score, your total health index, you begin to see that every category impacts the other, that you can't actually compartmentalize these things. Because if you take just one of your scores, it brings your overall health index way down. And so, for example, maybe you are like really living out your purpose and you love the people that you're around and you have all the provision that you need. You have all the resources, you are heard, you are fought for, you have the people resources, the structural resources, the personal resources. Maybe you love the place that you're in, or if you're not in a great place, you have found ways to mitigate it. You have 4 really high scores, but if you're honest, your personal health is an absolute disaster. Maybe the best that you could do if you're being brutally honest is to give yourself like a 15 or a 10 or a 20. If everything else is a 90, you have 4 90s and 1 10, you're going to end up with a score that goes all the way down to 74. And I'm pretty sure I did that math right, but I could be wrong. If you have 2 areas that are out of alignment, you have 2 areas where you're scoring somewhere in the 30s. Even if all of the other areas are way up there in the 80s and 90s, your overall health score is going to be down in the 60s or 70s. You see, the power of this is we begin to see how healthy we actually are when we factor in all the different categories that lead to our health. And we get to pinpoint the areas that, if we were able to improve them, could dramatically increase our overall health the next time that we take this assessment. And so once you can actually see it, and if you're brutally honest, almost every single person on our staff surprised themselves with one of their scores. Some people surprised themselves that they're not really fully living in their purpose. Some people surprised themselves that they're actually resourced, when they're brutally honest, better than they think they are. Some people surprised themselves at how low they ranked the people around them. It's like they get along with them, but do they really trust them if they're being honest? Many people were surprised to see just how low their personal health is and how much it affects everything else. And I was one of those people. And so, again, 5 categories: purpose, people, provision, personal health, and place. Every one of those 5 gets a score of 1 to 100, with you being brutally honest about it. At the end, what you do is you take your purpose plus the people plus provision plus personal health plus place. You take that big number and divide it by 5, and that is your health index. Now, if you want to take that even to the next level, if you want to use it on a team, or maybe you want to do this on a personal level and use it in your family, the next step is to take everyone's health index. So that's the final score after you've added the 5 and divided by 5. Then you take your health index and the health index of your team, add all of the scores together, and divide it by the number of people in your group. Okay, to say it again, I took my health index score, which ended up being 66. 70 and above is considered healthy. And so I have some work to do. I took my health index score, and then I took all 8 of our team members who were there yesterday. We added all 9 of those scores together and then divided them by 9. And what that gave us is not just how healthy we are as individuals, but how healthy we are as a team. This is such a powerful, powerful tool to begin to assess how healthy you actually are right now, if you take into consideration all the different categories of your life that you keep compartmentalizing. When we talk about purpose in your personal life, how are you living that out outside of the workplace? When we talk about people in your personal life, how is your marriage really? How is your relationship with your kids? Do you have a strong social group? Give it a 1 to 100. What about provision? Do you have what you need? Are you taking care of your home or your apartment? Are you taking care of your car? Are you setting goals and saving for the provisions that you're lacking? Are you making a plan to bring in the income that you need to meet your life's goals and to fuel your life's purposes? Are you taking care of your health? Are you eating decently and exercising regularly? And are you in the right place? Are you satisfied? 1 to 100 on all 5 Ps, divided by 5, that is your score. Do it in your family. Have everyone get their health index score, add all of them together, and divide by how many people are present. Find out how healthy you are as a family. And then this is key. Set a calendar reminder 6 months from today, and then retake the 5 Ps. Evaluate your progress. I did this literally at the end of our meeting yesterday. I Googled, what is 6 months from today? And it ended up being January 23rd, I believe. And so on January 24th, I set an expectation in our Grow meeting to do the 5 Ps again. I had everyone take a picture of theirs and save it on their computers so that we can all look back and see, how have we grown? Are we staying stagnant? If we're serious about our lives mattering, if we're serious about living out a purpose, then how are we progressing towards our purpose? Healthy people are set up to have no obstacles in the path of their purpose. Even suffering that comes the way of a healthy person can be redeemed for good and for the significance of the life that we've been given to live. And so, how healthy are you? And then measure it over time. 6 months later, come back to it. If you scored a 15 on your personal health and you come back and it's still a 15, that's fine. At least you know, if you really want to see your health improve, you know what you have to do. If you do this consistently, maybe you make it a habit every 6 months to revisit the 5 Ps, then you may see some of these actually go backwards. There may be a season of your life where there's a new person in your friend group, or you have a new supervisor, or you're in a new relationship, and that number actually goes backwards. That's okay. If you can see it, you can actually do something about it. But if we are just leaving our health up to chance, life will have its way. We're incredibly busy. We're all stuck in the whirlwind of activity. And as long as we are stuck in the whirlwind, we are incapable of rising above, of seeing what's on the horizon, of making a plan and living a life of purpose and really executing a life of impact during our time on earth. This is a short one today because it's a simple one today. How healthy are you? There is a way to find out. I want to thank my friend Brad Hobbs, who brought this to my attention. I hope that this podcast is something that you can put into practice. And this is one of the more practical pieces of application that we've ever had. I'll show it to you again. It is simply 5 scores in 5 areas added together, divided by 5. That is your health index. 70 and above is pretty healthy. If you're not healthy, you will see the categories that need the most attention. Give attention to them. Go back and listen to some of our other podcasts that will give you some tools and some structure to put around your life to push you further and to raise that score. I took a picture of my dinner last night. It was grilled fish and grilled zucchini. I sent it to the whole team, and all I said was raising my score. It's motivating to be able to see the categories that you need to work on. And your life matters. It is important enough to take this seriously, to get healthy, and to make a difference in the world around you. I want to remind you that you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Clayton Tyner. That's ClaytonTyner. If you're listening to this only, make sure you are subscribed and that you're sharing this on social media. If you are watching this on YouTube, there's the YouTube trifecta. You like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That helps this channel grow. I so appreciate everyone who tunes in every week. We're going to keep this thing going. Love you guys. Hope to see you on episode 14.